Mr. Jonathan von Artist, all of the Israeli cabinets have genocidal language. We should start asking, why are we funding this?
I think you should update your poison. I've heard it a million times. It's interesting for me to hear that from an Egyptian.
Egypt never received $30 billion to murder children and bomb hospitals. Israel is like Shaggy. You show you killed the children. It wasn't me. Your war crimes are documented. They have broken more international laws than Diddy has violated young rappers.
I'll give you credit for saying catchy things and sound bites, but in terms of actually knowing what's going on in Gaza, you have no clue. 3 months of starvation, that is nonsense. You know how many videos I've seen of fat Gazans, of fat Hamas fighters?
Dude, we gave you $30 billion to bomb children, and it's not enough for you. At least when you pay a dominatrix, you know that you're getting fucked.
5 of Israel's allies, including the United Kingdom, have sanctioned 2 senior members of the Israeli government. Finance Minister Smotrich and Security Minister Ben-Gvir are accused of inciting extremist violence and serious abuses of Palestinian human rights. Both have called for the aggressive expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Smotrich says that Gaza will be entirely destroyed and that not one grain of wheat should be allowed in. That's genocidal language. And the result is an extraordinary situation in which two of Israel's top ministers are now banned from travelling to countries that Israel counts as friends and allies. The United States, Israel's oldest and most important ally, is rapidly running out of patience too. President Trump might be the only person outside of Israel who can end this war. This week he called Netanyahu to tell him that a ceasefire and a hostage deal are not enough. He expects the war to end. For today's debate, I'm joined by 2 very familiar contributors whose insights we value and respect. Jonathan Conricus is a former IDF spokesman and combat commander. Bاسm Yusuf is a satirist, a former surgeon and a figurehead of the pro-Palestinian movement. Both have spoken a lot about October the 7th and the long history of the war and indeed the conflict. So we're going to focus on what's happening now and what needs to happen next. Jonathan will go first, Bاسm will respond. We'll try to give both of you equal time and a statement to respond to. So let's get into this. Jonathan Conricus, first of all, your reaction to this pretty unprecedented news that 2 Israeli senior ministers have effectively been sanctioned by some of Israel's closest allies.
Yeah, it puts into question if it really is a close ally. And I think I'm very disappointed. I think it is egregious. I think it's wrong. I think that decision is hypocritical. I think it is unfair and probably impossible standards that are only applied against Israel. And I think it is very unhelpful. And I think that Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the same words, very unhelpful for the UK and a few other countries to gang up against Israel and to do that. I will say that I didn't vote for either of those 2 ministers, and I probably don't share many of their views and definitely not their language and style of communications. But I will say that they were democratically elected and that in Israel, which is more than I can say about a lot of people and so-called leaders in the region who are not under UK sanctions, and I think that they represent what their voters feel. Now, without espousing and supporting specifically what you quoted Bezalel Smotrich saying, when it comes to humanitarian aid, I think there's a bit of irony here that he is now sanctioned after he himself, as Minister of Finance, signed the budget that pays for humanitarian aid that is now being delivered to Gazans. As far as I know, more than 14 million meals have been provided by Israel and the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation over less than 2 weeks directly to Palestinians without Hamas or their front organization UNRWA being able to touch, contaminate, control and divert the aid. And I think that is positive development, welcome. I think that it is late in the game and we should have done it earlier. But I'm happy that it's being done now. I'm happy on 2 fronts because 1, there is a need for food to be provided, and 2, it undermines the control and the stranglehold that Hamas has over the Palestinian population.
Okay.
And I would also say under the same, just one last thing appears, under the category of hypocrisy,